Hello, boils and ghouls. You are now tuned in to PVD Horror Podcast. Pleasant screams.
Hey, what's going on? You're now tuned into the PVD Horror Podcast. I'm Brandon. I'm joined by my co-host Dave. And today we have editor, director, writer Aviv Rubinstien and actress, writer Lianne O'Shea to talk about their new film, Lizzie Lazarus, which is set to release on Screambox January 14th. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Excited to be here.
No problem. Aviv, it was great meeting you at the Vortex Film Festival down in Rhode Island. Our buddy Sean puts on a great show. It was, how did you enjoy the festival?
We met the first night that I was there at the festival. Lianne came in the day after that, and I loved the festival. I saw a bunch of really great films, really great short films, and we got to meet some folks and make friends with some folks who made some awesome shorts, other features, and we want to collaborate with them in the future and keep in touch with them, and it felt great.
Right. And there's such an awesome community down there. That was something I was like so pleasantly surprised by. Like the Seans do an awesome job of putting together that festival and bringing people together and having events where people can connect afterwards. And it is great. Like I cannot wait to go back.
Yeah, we want to come back every year and stand by.
Disregard the last evacuation warning. That's what that says.
Man.
It was for Calabasas only.
Aviv, can you just
is this going to make the show?
I think it should.
We should.
I mean, it's
going to make the show.
This is very relevant to what's happening.
Let me catch all of you up. We're recording this on January 9th, 2025, and Los Angeles is currently mostly on fire. And we live kind of in the middle of the city, surrounded by like a bunch of buildings and not green stuff. And so we are generally pretty safe in our neighborhood. And just like 3 minutes before we decided to record with you all, there was a massive evacuation warning that accidentally went to everyone in the city. And so the one that you just heard pick up on our microphones was the emergency retraction. Disregard last evacuation warning.
Yeah, it's not great out here, but the firefighters are amazing and doing a lot of really good work. So we're hoping that it'll all be under control.
Yeah,
sure.
we have friends and close family that have lost a lot in the fires, and we're hoping for this to get resolved really, really fast.
Yeah,
because it's pretty devastating.
Absolutely. Yeah, all day today it's been seeing one person after another making a post and showing the devastation of losing their homes and all that stuff. And like we said earlier, I can't even imagine being in an area where this is even something that you have to worry about. So definitely
the car is currently packed just in case.
Okay. Oh yeah,
there you go.
Good.
Yeah.
So
but back to
crossed.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
I was thinking about saying I'm almost 40 years old, and it has been a long time since I've closed down a bar. And
in Providence, we were there out every night.
Till
2
a.m.
So you
so
fully
fun.
enjoyed the Providence nightlife.
We had a great time.
There you go.
I don't even drink, but it was just so great, like meeting and talking to people and like yelling about movies that we like to each other.
Yeah, everybody was talking about their Letterboxd and like, oh, let's follow each other and all of that stuff. So it was really, really fun.
Yeah, cool. It was cool because that was the thing. Me and you, we met in the before the Society documentary, and so we were like just chatting up about like some of our favorite films, from like a wide range from us growing up. Could you share some of your love for horror and how you got into it with the listeners?
Sure, I'll let Lianne go first.
Okay. Well, I am kind of, I guess, a latecomer to horror. I was a bit of a scaredy cat as a kid. I mean, I did see, Scream and all of those, but I got into horror a little bit later, when maybe after college, I would say. My all-time favorite horror movie, classic from growing up, is The Thing. And love like a psychological element. I really love when the story is saying something more than just like, look gross, look at this. But sometimes that's really fun too, speaking of society.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they're saying something, which I like.
Yeah.
And then I would say more recently, The Thing has been my favorite for years, but my new recent, I think number one might be The Substance.
Yeah.
Which is obviously brand new. But it's kind of a combination of so many things I like fun colors and music and awesome ladies. And then also like gross body horror and crazy things happening.
Yeah,
and
there's not a society angle in the Substance as well.
That's true. And I'll let Aviv share some of his favorites.
I am also kind of a scaredy cat by nature. And so I grew up in Pennsylvania as a teenage boy. My friends and I would all get together and watch horror movies. And I saw The Exorcist in the theater when they re-released it in 1999 or something. Yeah. And I had a full-blown panic attack in the theater. And then when we started having these, they're not called slumber parties when you're a 14-year-old boy, but when we started having these sleepovers, we would do a double feature of Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, and then Evil Dead 2 again with the director's commentary on. And Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi break down how they did all of these gags, these effects, the snorcams, the reversed footage, all this stuff, right? Miniature photography. And we got really inspired. My group of friends and I got really inspired to try to do this on our own. And so we made a potato cannon. We made a breakaway bottle mold. We made our own squibs. And because this was the woods in Pennsylvania, we just ran out into the woods and we're shooting guns and stuff.
Did any of those go wrong?
One of the bottles, the first breakaway bottle that we made them out of wax because we were 14. We didn't know how to get our hands on sugar glass. And so we made a wax bottle that was a little significantly too thick on the bottom end and to break over anybody's head. It was looked like a lava lamp. And so we nicknamed it the lobotomizer. And if anyone ever got hit with the lobotomizer, they would get taken out. And eventually I did get the lobotomizer over the head.
Oh my god.
But luckily, we're very stupid kids running around the woods, so things definitely could have gone way wrong. But we were more interested in filming stuff than we were about daredevil stuff. And so it really that inspired my love of making movies, but it also kind of helped me get over my fear of horror movies because I could look at the craft as opposed to the being scared about being possessed by a deadite or something.
Yeah.
I now that you're mentioning that, my first acting horror movie experience I remember was, I think I was 13, and a bunch of my friends and I on a rainy day in the summer decided to make a Scream movie because we loved screams. There, I grew up in Boston, just outside of Boston, so there weren't many woods to be spoken of, but there was a lot of running around and ketchup being squirted all over the place.
It's interesting. Our respective teams could have teamed up, I think, and
probably.
made a really horrible teenage horror movie.
Yeah.
Ghostface chasing you with a lobotomizer.
And a secret bottle of ketchup.
Yeah.
There you go.
Aviv, do you have any recent favorite horror films?
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved The Substance as well as Leanne. I don't want to steal Leanne's thunder, but I really loved The Substance. And a movie that I really liked this year that's right at the top of my list that I'm surprised didn't have like a bigger splash was Strange Darling.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
We saw it at the Popcorn Frights Film Festival where we premiered our movie. It was the opening night film, and it was like a real hot audience, and like everyone loved it, went crazy for it. And fun fact: this is exclusive to this podcast. I'm going to tell you. Strange Darling has like intertitles, like chapter titles, right?
Yep.
And our movie used to have chapter intertitles, and we cut them at the last minute. And I have never been more thankful that we cut our chapter titles than when I saw Strange Darling do it. And I was like, oh man, we dodged a fucking bullet.
Like the day
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
But Strange Darling's incredible.
Yeah, Strange Darling was great. Performances are great. Whether you consider that like a capital H horror movie or not, I don't know, but I loved it. I went crazy for it.
Yeah, we talked about Strange Darling quite a bit.
Yeah.
We also got to see it with a hot and sexy crowd too. We had a little early screening with some PVD horror community people, so we had a good time with that one. It's definitely one that was best experience too, I think, on the big screen. So
with an audience screaming, yelling,
Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely.
that. I think that's maybe one of the reasons that it didn't do as well as I was expecting. Is like not everyone had that same experience.
Exactly. Yep.
I would also love to give a little shout out to another favorite horror of mine this year, Late Night with the Devil.
Oh
Yep.
That movie rocked. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys got good taste.
Yeah.
Very good.
I love
taste.
it.
Yeah. I'm a big David Dastmalchian fan, so I'll see anything he's
Just
in.
everything about that, the feel, it just felt so
Yes.
cool.
Totally.
And, yeah.
So real.
That was cool.
And I'm not a found footage kind of guy. I like generally that's not my. I always have like my logic brain kicks in and I'm like, why would they still be filming? But like they do found footage in a way that is so fresh in Late Night with the Devil that I was like back in.
That was
for
definitely good. And that was cool. So, like Dave said, you had some good taste, some great films that you just tossed out to us. But what was it that got you guys into like making films and acting? Like,
Oh man, I mean, running around the woods at 14. And I knew I wanted to make films at that age. I was really inspired by the Christopher Nolan movie Memento. And I know that's like how bold a white man is saying that he's inspired to make movies because of Christopher Nolan. But I was 14 when it came out, and the very first scene of that movie is Leonard like putting the Polaroid picture like undeveloping in Leonard's hand, and then him putting the picture back in the camera, and he holds out his hand and a gun flies up into his hand. And it was like that moment, it was like I was awakened because I understood that you couldn't do that in a book. You couldn't do that in a painting. Like movies are different than everything else, every other form of art. And I just I've always wanted to kind of capture that moment that I felt when I was that young and kind of give other people their version of that. Like, I don't think that I'm like definitely like, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I want to eventually like inspire someone as much as I was inspired.
You can toot your own horn here. You're our guest.
I'm tooting. I'm the
away.
best filmmaker. I don't actually. How did you get into it? I don't really know this story.
So I can kind of relate. I think as long as I can remember, I've always loved movies and stories and plays, and my parents are really big on like taking my sister and I to the movies and shows and musicals and, renting My Fair Lady from the video store when I was little, like all of that kind of stuff. And I started out dancing really, really young. I was always a dancer growing up and kind of got into wanting to speak on stage, I guess. I say in grade school at some point, but I was always kind of back and forth and like I loved to dance. And I think it was when I really started applying to college that I was like, no, acting is what I want to do. I love storytelling. I love that feeling of sitting in the audience, whether it's at a play in a 90-seat theater or 1,000-seat IMAX screen, just that feeling of escaping and being totally sucked into a story and taking away something from it, whether it's, you know, a new love of filmmaking or a hope or a dream or whatever, or even sometimes just having that escape. And that was really what I loved about storytelling and about acting. And that, I think, is why I really decided to pursue this. And I started doing theater because it was kind of a natural progression growing up in Boston. Like there is, you know, a lot of theater around, and New York is so close. And it was, you know, but sometime around when I graduated college, I was like, I think I should go for movies because I love movies. Let's go make some movies. And I would say Indiana Jones. I was watching an Indiana Jones with my sister, and it was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to get up there and I want to do that. And I want to, you know, just be all of these different people and at the same time inspire just as many different people, hopefully.
Yeah. I also will say, Lianne.
And it's really fun. It's so fun.
I can imagine.
My God.
Yeah.
I'll also say Leanne's background in dance has like helped as we're making movies together. Like her ability to be physical in different ways has like really helped like the types of roles that we write together, the types of movies that we make together is like everyone's got like Leanne's got like a secret power to do this or that or the other thing.
There you go. So Lianne, like with you being from Boston, what were some of your favorite local spots you like to hang out or just go to escape besides the movie theater?
Harvard Square.
Okay.
I in high school, like me and my friends would just like hang out in Harvard all the time. We would go to Newbury Comics a lot. Like I loved being at the record store. I would just like go, I'm like dating myself here, but like go through like stacks of CDs and just pick things out. And like I was really into music. My dad was in a band before I was born, and like
his songs are in the movie.
His songs are in the movie.
Songs are in yeah.
But you know, always was really into music, always grew up with a lot of music. And so I was very lucky that like at a very young age, my parents were like, yeah, you can go to a concert. That's fine. And, you know, would take the T and go see whatever at like all of the little venues in Boston and Cambridge, like TT the Bears.
Rip.
Yeah.
So there. And also, you know, I just lost my earpiece. We would even come down to Providence every now and then too, because like there was always stuff going on at RISD and Brown and Thayer Street, and a lot of music, a lot of shows, and then kind of, you know, Newbury Comics and various thrift stores is probably what I did growing up in Boston. And the occasional Red Sox game. Go Sox.
Go Sox.
So have you had your dad contribute to other projects that you've done, or was this the first time?
So kind of. So I have one CD that has music from my dad's band in the 70s. They were called The Works, and they would like tour all around. My dad was the lead singer. As a kid, I was like, oh God, Dad, don't sing. But now I'm like, whoa, my dad's a really good singer, and this music is excellent. And so we have put tracks in like other projects before, you know, like if a character is, you know, listening to, like in our movie, a character is listening to a tape, or other things where it's kind of, it would make sense for it to play in the background because it is period appropriate. Like it is authentically from like the mid 70s, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. So I got the kind of I became a Works fan when I met Lianne, and I was in post on a documentary, and we had temped it with a song by the band The Who, and we could not afford that, obviously. And so I think I straight up asked you, was like, oh man, I'm looking for the sound alike for this like early 70s Who track. And
I
you're
was
like,
do you want to hear my dad's
here
band?
you go. And so when we went to this movie, fast forward 5, 6, 7 years, there is a moment where it takes place in 1990, and there's a moment where one of the characters like puts on headphones to like drown out Leanne's character criticizing him.
Yeah.
And so I originally I wanted a Talking Heads song. He's like another Rhode Island connection.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the character Eli is like is very David Byrne, Brian Eno forward. That's like if I could have made his character's name David Byrne, I would have. Oh,
I know. I was just gonna say you're wearing the shirt.
Yeah.
It's very appropriate.
And so obviously that wasn't gonna work. And then I was gonna like write my own version of a Talking Head song. And then once again, I got the brilliant idea to be like, Lianne, what should we do here? And Leanne's like, my dad had a band, you idiot. And so
It's like, we need something we can afford that would have been recorded before 1990.
Oh god, where are we gonna find that? And what originally was going to be one song turned into, I think he has 4 songs in the movie now in that Walkman.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, you have to listen real close to hear them, but
yeah, right. I also kind of have a background in music. I played in bands in Boston in college, and so music drives a lot of what the marriage of like music and movies drives a lot of what we do. And so we're always like looking for cool underground songs that are, there's, the movie opens with a musical number and ends with a big.
Can I ask you about those two musical numbers?
Sure.
Who are those? The band in the end.
Are these people? Yeah,
I like the song. I was just looking them up.
They're good, right?
And I couldn't find anything. So could you tell us a little bit about them?
That's exactly. So those are the only 2 non-period appropriate songs, and I figured that if we're kind of breaking down reality in these moments, we can be anachronistic too. But I grew up in Philadelphia, as I said a bunch of times. And when I was in high school and early college, I would play with this band. Like my band would play with this band called Shore Juror.
Yeah.
Like someone on a jury who is certain. And their name was ungoogleable, if you could imagine. But I stayed in touch with Jonathan Heathcote, the singer for Sure Juror, and we kept in touch for years after I moved from Philly to Boston. And in about 2011 he sent me this new track. It was called Infants, and
that's the opening song.
That's
right?
The opening song.
Yep.
And so I loved it. I was like immediately kind of transported. Johnny's music is so cinematic anyway, so like that's like part of my listening while writing playlist is like all of the Sure Juror music. And so I had envisioned the opening of the movie, the movie starts with the way many of these like true crime or true crime adjacent things start, with like the dead girl in the river.
Yeah.
And how do you make the dead girl in the river something that you've never seen before? And so she just starts singing. And so we recorded that on location. So Johnny was living in LA at the time. Serendipitously, we re-recorded the song with our composer Alexandra Kalinowski, and Megan Ostrike, who plays Lizzie, sang it in the woods, like we did her shot her in the river laying in the creek to playback, and then we recorded her vocals. And so what you're hearing in the movie is her singing in those exact woods.
I have to say that scene, people are going to have one of 2 responses to it. It's either like, this is so different, I've never seen anything like this, and I'm like totally intrigued, or what the fuck am I watching? Like, why is this person singing right now, and how is this going to play out? Luckily I had the first response, and I was like captivated right away.
Yeah. And when we were testing the movie, we got a lot of like, what the fuck is this?
Sure. Yeah.
And one of the things that we were like really dedicated to was this song, and it like plays kind of a plot role later on in the film.
Yep.
And then the last song is by a band called Gape that I don't think exists anymore, but they were fronted by a guy named Rudy Valdez, who lives in Indiana, who I met when I was on tour with my old band in 2008. And we stayed in touch, and just one of those kind of like mournful, sorrowful tracks that doesn't really let go of you.
Yeah.
And it accidentally happens to like contribute to the plot in a way. But it was just like more so than that, it was just kind of the longing that I heard in that song that I knew I wanted to close the movie with. And for both of those tracks, I sent the script to both artists. I wrote the lyrics to Infants into the script, and sent it to Johnny to get his blessing. And I sent the script also to Rudy to get his blessing. And so it was like from the beginning, those were the tracks that we wanted to use.
Yeah.
That ending track, it definitely evokes some emotion. And like, as you said, like it kind of like stays with you. It gave me the same feeling. There's this indie movie, Bellflower. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Yeah,
but
Bellflower.
There's some tracks in there that right after the film, I immediately started to look up to find, because they just stuck with me after. I was like, I kind of want that feeling. And they're kind of, like you said, a little mournful and somber, but I got the same feeling from it. I immediately started to try to find these songs, and I couldn't find them. So that's why I wanted to make sure to ask.
I'll hook you up.
Very cool. Yes. Thank you.
and we want to release the soundtrack at some point,
Cool.
as like a tie-in, but also just because like these tunes are so cool.
Yeah, those artists are so great, and I love the songs.
Yeah. Awesome.
But like, once again, you guys had a great festival run. Congratulations on winning Best Horror Film, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, and Best Director. You know, so
yeah, thank you
so much.
You guys swept it over there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, we were very shocked and flattered and cried, and it was so awesome, so cool. Again, the Vortex people, the family there is like incredible. It felt so great, and like, oh my gosh, really?
and like, we made this movie with our own money. We did this on our own terms with all of our friends in the woods. We shot it in 10 days. Like, this was definitely a small movie and a labor of love. And so we also knew that it's not the Avengers. The Avengers is like designed to please everybody, and we were just trying to kind of please ourselves creatively. And so the fact that this is finding an audience of people who connect with it and like are the same kind of weird that we are is like really heartening for like, oh, we're like kind of finding our people through this, like the airwaves.
Really incredible to just have people even want to see it, and then to like it on top of it is just like a dream.
So many people have said so many nice things. I mean, people have said horrible things to us too, but and I will read them to you now. No, so many people have said so many nice things that it feels a little unreal, because for so long this was like the circle of the people who understood this movie was like 2.
Yeah.
And then it was like 5. And then it was like 15. And now it's like, it's yours now.
We've also been a part of projects that we've done solo and together that have never come out. And so even just, I forget, I think an actor or director was like, says it's a like a true miracle to end up with a finished film. And I can totally,
every movie is a miracle.
I can totally relate with that. So it's so awesome to have it finished and about to be out in the world.
Absolutely.
And if it's not your thing, make your own movie. I'm not saying this to be mean. I truly mean it. Like,
I don't know what your thing is.
What is your thing? I might really like it.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I'll go fuck myself.
I thought you were going to say, what is your thing? I'm going to go shit on it.
I'll shit on your thing. No, I mean, I think that the only movies that I really truly dislike are ones that like waste opportunity or waste their budget, right?
Yeah.
If your movie's a little rough around the edges, a couple shots are out of focus, but you're like trying to say something or do something that represents you, that's like, I'm gonna root for you forever.
Yeah.
And we've met so many people at the festivals that we've been at, Vortex right at the top, who like just want you to succeed, are rooting for you because they know that you're telling your story or the story, something that means something to you.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome that you point that out, because like before me and Dave like started this podcast and like this whole horror community, we sometimes when we would not like a film, we would kind of like throw it out there and just kind of say that. But then now it's like when you kind of like go through this and understand the process of making films, and that it's not easy, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, now you look at all these things that everything was put into, and it's just the creativity to get there, because you like just going into it, like with the budgets of like things being taken out because it's not enough money, or something that you like, you visualize that you want to, but then you can't. So it's just like, okay, well, I can understand like, where they wanted to go, but it definitely changes your view and everything about all this stuff. And it's just been a great ride for us. And so we appreciate talking to like upcoming directors and actors. So it's just been great. And, like we just love having you on. So that's why it was like cool when me and you connected. It was just like, man, we like the same movies. We were talking about like Jason Takes Manhattan and all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas
3D.
Chainsaw is my guy.
Leatherface
is my guy.
Yeah. So it's cool. And so, Lizzie Lazarus is about to release on streaming on Screambox on January 14th. Everyone listening, if you don't have Screambox, definitely get it now. It's only $6.99 a month. Definitely worth checking out. How did you guys get the deal with Screambox?
Oh man, I'll probably say I'm gonna say more than most people say. I think, I hope not too much, which is we got into the festival that we premiered at was Popcorn Frights, and literally the only reason we premiered there versus Vortex is like the schedule, right? But Popcorn Frights is an incredible festival, and we met the two showrunners there, Igor and Mark, who are like the nicest people,
so cool and so kind. Like also speaking of community, like they have an awesome Popcorn Frights community down in Florida.
And like as soon as we walked into the theater, they like gave us big hugs, and they were like, we didn't know that you were going to be here, that we didn't know this and that. And so Popcorn Frights has such a good reputation, and we got to premiere there, which we were really fortunate about, that someone from Screambox reached out a bunch of people reached out asking for a screener to look at, and from there we got a handful of offers, but one of them was from Screambox, and I spent about an hour on the phone with the person that like buys films for Screambox, and we like basically like had a similar situation with that you and I did, Brandon, where we like talked about movies that we liked, talked about movies that inspired us, talked about like what the goal was for this film specifically, and I like almost talked us out of a deal, because Screambox did the Terrifier movies, and I was like, hey man, like I just want you to know that this isn't Terrifier. This is not like a buckets of blood, chainsaw up the ass horror movie. Spoilers for Terrifier 3. And he's like, yeah, man, I saw the movie. Like, what are you talking about? We want the movie. Like, why are you saying this? And so they have been so great. Like, there's this conventional wisdom is that it's like a battle. Like there's this kind of acrimonious sort of like, oh, you're trying to take my rights away, and I'm trying to keep my creative vision or something. And we've been in that situation too. But Screambox was like, hey, this is the movie. It's great. Send us, like, don't make any changes to it except for put the Screambox bumper in the front of it, and we're gonna work with you to put it out the way that that should be put out.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out like everyone there from the marketing team who have had like several hours long phone calls with me, to the acquisitions team, to like everybody has been so great. So if you don't want to watch our movie, get Screambox.
Yeah, we're so excited to be working with them. Like they've been so cool and kind and supportive, and they're supporting filmmakers like us, which is really neat.
Yeah.
Like we're all about new indie films, and it seems that Screambox is too, which is really cool.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And they've got really exciting projects that I don't officially know about coming up. That I think it's been announced that they're remaking Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Yep.
I just saw that the other day. Actually,
Yeah, and so
that's crazy.
Yeah, which is like super. As someone who watched the original when I was a teenager, it's super exciting.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Nice. Now, can you guys give us a synopsis of the film?
Oh, sure.
Sure. Do you want to do it?
I'll do
You
it.
can do it.
Can you guys both do it at the same exact time?
1, 2, 3.
1,
You ready?
2, 3. Two strangers.
Oh my! It's a summer solstice. It's 1990, and two strangers are carrying a corpse through the woods toward a mythical zone that they're not sure exists, because they think that if they bury the body that they're carrying in this zone at the exact moment of the summer solstice, it will come back to life. And that's because the corpse is her character's younger sister, and our other actor Eli, his like ex-girlfriend, because she's dead. I also want to shout out Omar Muscati, who plays Eli, who is so great. Was basically the only person that we didn't know before we set out to make this movie, and now he's like such a good close friend to both of us. And Megan O'Shea, who plays Lizzie, the dead body, and she was also our second AD, so she was like in her corpse makeup, like sending call sheets for the next day. And so all three of the performances are really incredible. But it's a walk and talk through the woods, and they learn new things about each other and secrets that they've been keeping. And
I also want to shout out Omar and Megan. They're amazing actors to work with. Like so generous, so kind, like great, just great to work with all around.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to shout them out, and I was like, but I just did.
But me
I was
too.
like, in my head, I was like, did I not say their names?
Like directly as an actor, in a scene with each of them is so nice. It's like so great being with actors that are present, not just physically but mentally, and are invested in the story, and they have great ideas, and they're coming with great ideas, and they were just both so awesome.
Can I tell you a story? I'm sure that you're like, shut up. But can I tell you a story? So most of the movie is, we're really inspired. I was really inspired by like 90s films like Before Sunrise, where it's two characters, and each of the conversations that they had kind of pushes us forward in a different way.
Right. We learned a new thing each one.
A new understanding, right? And so to some people that means nothing's happening, and to some people that means everything's happening, but your results may vary. But because of that, it is so much dialogue. And so we rehearsed for a week, and we rehearsed the movie as a play in our producer, Veronica Shea, shout out Veronica, in her backyard, with the two actors carrying like a big box instead of a human being. And so we did like a 25-page chunk each day until the Friday of the rehearsal, where I made them do the entire movie from beginning to end in the backyard as a play. And both Lianne and Omar and Megan, when in the few scenes where she is not dead, were like perfect. No one biffed a line. Like that, they were all so prepared and so thoughtful with their performances, and gave like layers and shades that I didn't even see until post-production. And so I like can't say enough great things about all three of the performers in the movie.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The only thing that would have made this movie any, I won't say better, different, would have been if you had Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy as the lead characters in this film.
That was kind of the vibe. And the other thing that was kind of was a touch point was like 1930s screwball comedies. where it's like enemies to lovers screwball, where they're just like are yelling at each other the whole time.
Yeah.
And so one of the like code names for this movie, other than Lizzie Lazarus, was Bringing Back Baby. And so yeah, we didn't call it that. We called it
Good call.
Lianne, you and Omar had great chemistry in this film. What was it like working together?
Really awesome. Omar is just very cool, very down to earth, such a great actor, has so much amazing experience both in theater and on screen, which I think is really cool. And especially, I think a lot of actors do have that. But it does really lend to handling like the huge amount of dialogue Aviv so wonderfully wrote for us. Also, shout out to Aviv because
thank you.
We didn't just think of what to say. He wrote it down for us. And it was just really, really great working with Omar. It was fun because we, became friendly throughout the movie. And then, when you have to be mean to your new friend on screen, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, Omar is great. I hope we have the opportunity to work together again sometime.
And they both have great comedy backgrounds as well. And so that allowed us the opportunity to like dial in exactly how funny we wanted a scene to play. And so like both of them are super, super skilled with comedy and also dramatic. There's a lot of drama in this.
I think that was like the first thing I noticed was the banter especially in the very beginning, like the way it sets up, like it's just like so. The back and forth is just so good, and I love like because you start talking like conspiracy theory stuff in the very beginning, and it's like the response and like the chemistry right away was like locked in, and it felt just authentic, but it felt like also like I was watching like a play at the same time. So like your theater background, before I even looked you up and saw that, I kind of had a feeling that you had some theater background. So yeah, that was something definitely that was noticeable.
Thank you.
It was cool because, like right at the end, like when it hit the like one-liners and then you guys would just look at each other and it was just like, okay, like it definitely hit different.
That's one of my favorite performances in the one-liner at the last one-liner that you two get.
And that was I just always remember when I see that scene. This is like there's an ending scene where there was one take. I don't like we were just we were shooting overnights and like there was a one take where I started it off and I felt like I was in a musical and Aviv cut and I was like, that I don't know what I was doing there. It's like,
No, you're not in the musical.
But it was really fun to build those things together, not just with Omar and Aviv, but with the entire crew and especially with the other actors and of course Megan, who I think is giving so much, even if she appears to just be lying there sometimes.
Sure. There's a moment where there's something, once again, didn't see it on the day, because like when you're directing something like especially when you're out in the woods, your monitor's like this big. For the audio only listeners, it's like about the size of my palm. And so there's a moment where Megan, who is a corpse, gets to kind of choose where her eyes are fixed in a way that I was like, oh my God, what a smart decision that I never would have thought of even suggesting. And so, I don't want to spoil anything, but Megan does the best dead body acting that I've ever seen in any movie.
And you guys did a lot of heavy lifting in this film. How did you guys prepare for that?
Oh man.
So both Omar and I, we talked about it when we got to the woods, like both loading up backpacks with things and like going for hikes and trying to train in that way, going to the gym and all of that. But the one thing I didn't train for because I didn't know I needed to was the amount of pine cones on the ground.
So many pine cones.
In Reno, in where we were, there was this place was crazy with pine cones.
Lousy with pine cone.
Lousy with pine
A
cones.
pine cone even gets its
Pine cone every foot, and not even like every 6 inches.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But you know, it was really fun, and I love anything that is physical. And I also, you know, would be nervous, like, don't trip on a pine cone. Don't
slip. You're holding a human. Don't slip. I want to shout out a couple more people. Chi, who is our grip, who was the pine cone clearer.
Yeah.
Who every location he'd be like, "Give me 10 minutes. I'm gonna do the pine cone."
Oh my God.
And Anna Baker, our script supervisor, who was also the body double for sometimes for like carrying the carrying double. She was a teenage gymnast, and so anytime we were like, oh, this carrying thing is like a little rough, she's like, I'll do it. And so,
or if Megan was like needed elsewhere,
makeup,
she was doing multiple things.
So Anna was stunt performer, script supervisor, costume wrangler, and PA and
everything.
art PA, did so many things. Love you, Anna. And yeah, everyone played so many roles that it felt like there's some costumes in the barn, let's go put on a show sort of thing, which I really love that vibe of movie making. A
very summer camp vibe. You know, we were all on location. We were all staying in like 3 different Airbnbs, and it had such a great team out there. Like everybody really did more than what they were asked to do, and
way more than they were paid to do.
They were all just so great. Like, I think a movie is such a collaborative effort, and sometimes when it comes out, people can forget that. But I think it was really a labor of love of all of the 70 odd people that worked on this film.
Everyone really went above and beyond. I also want to shout out, here's a slightly funny story, funny for us, is that so the body bag stuff is a mix of real human being, and also we had a cadaver dummy donated by our second camera's second EC, Sophia Casciola, who's like a great director and cinematographer.
Amazing filmmaker. I've also worked with her on other projects.
She's incredible. And so they just like, she had a dummy lying around with like a big open cavity in its chest. And so some of the stuff is like, we put Lizzie's costume on that cadaver dummy. And then our last night in the woods there, we just accidentally left the dummy in the woods with like a massive open wound in its chest. And so we're like all driving back to LA from like the Tahoe area of Nevada, and we get this text from Sophia being like, "Did you take the dummy?" And she had to turn around and go back.
Oh, no. It was
just laying in the woods.
And it's also, you know, like it in the movie, it looks like woods. It is woods, but it's also a kind of like state or.
It's a state park.
Park. So when we would be setting up for the night, people would be walking their dogs at sunset. Like, have a good.
Yeah, we saw the same people every day. Like, oh, how are you doing tonight?
There were definitely people walking by that foam dead body in the morning.
Yeah,
maybe didn't realize it.
I can share a picture of the dummy with you if you want.
Yes,
for yourself.
Okay, definitely.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about something kind of obvious, but I'd love to hear you explain it a little. Can you talk about the character names? So obviously we got Lizzie Lazarus, we got Bethany and Eli, all biblical references, right?
Yes.
So can you talk about that? The Lazarus of Bethany.
Shit you not, the only person that has ever brought this up.
Okay. That's
so
scary.
That's scary.
I don't know if that says about me or everyone else.
So Lazarus is the one that everyone gets, right?
Yep.
Or something most people get. Who Jesus brought back from the dead. I'm Jewish. I just think that these are cool, like metal stories, which I think is like very freeing for me to kind of like data mosh these like different references, because I don't really know them that well. And so Lizzie Lazarus, I like the alliteration, and then Bethany is the place in the Holy Land where they did this. And so I was like, that's cool, right? There's like a little kind of inside baseball thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of that turned out to be more a feature than a bug, where we realized that's like they're likely both versions of Elizabeth, and like why would you do that? And then Elijah is the prophet of the Passover story, right? So this is the one that I know and I'm familiar with, but Elijah like is also responsible for resurrection. God, you know, his mighty hand performs resurrection ceremonies, miracles through Elijah, and rains fire down from the sky, which I suppose is what's happening in Los Angeles right now. And so I liked these three names, and I thought I was being very clever, but didn't want to at any point in the movie be like, hey, your name's Bethany, and that's where Jesus did. Like, I didn't want it to ever be spoken about in the movie, and I really like I don't know if it's like a real thing, but I call it like adding texture. I like hiding little things in there because I'm the kind of person that watches movies over and over and over again, and so I think this movie rewards rewatch, or at least that's how we intended it, because we want there to be different clues and things that you pick up each time you see it.
Yep. And it's funny because like when we were off air, when we were saying your name and we made the Frankenstein reference,
yes,
I said that, and like and when I was first watching it, my first initial thing was like, oh, this is like a Frankenstein inspired film maybe. And then as I started to watch it, I was like, no, dummy, look at the freaking title. That's not Frankenstein related. Lazarus. And then so I just did a little research, and I was like, oh, Lazarus of Bethany and all that stuff. So I thought that was very cool, and like not something like that you hear every day, someone adding these little like things in there. So that was cool.
I'm gonna think about that for a week. That's great.
You were cool.
You've just made my writing 100 times worse, by the way, because I'm gonna do this forever now.
Yeah, everything's gonna have biblical references.
Get that the name is an anagram for him. Yeah. I think, and to speak to the kind of Frankenstein reference, obviously, like there are a limited amount of references that you can make when you're like reanimating someone from the dead. But this kind of speaks to how we wanted to make up Lizzie. So Lizzie's a corpse, and she kind of gets like more and more fucked up throughout the movie. And so there is this real discussion that we had a couple of makeup artists work on this. And the real discussion of like, how do we make her look gross and like she is a rotting corpse, but also still kind of the object of desire for these two characters in different ways. And so there is this like line that we walk of like, is it Bride of Frankenstein? Is it like real flesh necrosis? Like, what are we doing? And so that was like a discussion that we had in pre-production and in production.
All right. Bear with me. Okay. I'm going to go down another little deep dive here. So we're dabbling in like some Pet Cemetery territory here, right? And I think when we think about films along the like themes like this, we're talking about like the ethicalness of bringing people back from the dead. And often like we think of it as like we're doing it for the dead person, right? But in reality, it's actually like because we're being selfish and we want them here, right? So, but we kind of mask that with like in this film, it's super present because the entire time they're talking about like doing it for her, right? But then you get these glimpses of them having that realization or just kind of acknowledging a little bit like, I just miss her or I want her back, right? So I really liked that you kind of brought that up, because like we see it in Pet Cemetery, right? But they never acknowledge it at any point, right? They never say like, I'm doing it for myself. It's like, I got to bring them back. Then they weren't ready to go, or, whatever, however they justify it. But here you kind of dabble with the back and forth of like, we're doing it for Lizzie, but no, I'm actually doing it because
are we? Yeah.
But are we? And I thought that was cool. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up and kind of get your take on that.
Thank you. I'll jump in on that, because that was something that Omar and Megan and I all talked a lot about. I'm like, don't want to give any spoilers, but at the same time, I do believe that there's a kind of a mystical element to Lizzie and Bethany and their family, and that I feel like kind of takes part in this idea of coming back to life, and when is it your time to go?
Sure.
That is a thing Bethany would say.
Hmm.
No, I
that's
think
so Bethany.
Yeah, whatever, Bethany. No, I don't really have anything that I could even add, because I think that you have appraised it so well, and once again feel so like honored that we are on the similar wavelengths.
Nice.
That they're literally like dragging her dead remains, like she has no agency. And so this is something that we talked with Megan about, because like Megan plays Lizzie plays a huge role in the movie, and yet you wouldn't think that by listening to the log line of the movie, because she's dead the whole time.
Yeah.
But like the question of her agency, whether she is died by suicide, whether she wants to come back, whether it's even okay for her to not want to come back, all this stuff was discussed with all the actors, but specifically with Megan, who played Lizzie, and she really dove into that, like, the idea that no one really saw Lizzie when she was alive.
Yeah.
No one really like understood her, and even the way that she is styled as a corpse, she's wearing like a baby doll dress, which is not who she really is, but it's like what the other people in her life have put upon her. So yeah, I think that you're like 1,000% dead on, down to the costuming and makeup. This is exactly what we were looking at.
And it just kind of dawned on me as we're talking about this. We're also talking about other people determining what to do with women's bodies or anyone's bodies, and that's a whole nother level and a whole nother conversation. But it's like, damn, there is so many layers here and different ways to go. So
that is something with stories that Aviv and I come up with, and I feel like a lot of the, especially horror ideas that we come up with, I'm like, and it's about women's rights.
yeah.
It's like, that is definitely something that we thought about and talked about. Like, is it a full on relation to women's healthcare rights and right of choice? But it's not about that.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I don't mean to be like kind of a carpetbagger in other people's miseries. Like, I really am interested in exploring perspectives other than my own kind of white cis male perspective. But I think truly in this country right now, there is nothing more horrifying than being either a woman or a person of color. And so that's who we cast in our movie. Those are the people who are at risk in this movie, is women and people of color. And this is not like, not so subtly related to like when we conceived of this movie and wrote this movie, which is like lockdown, COVID, like
Sure.
May of 2020. And so a lot of these conspiracy theories that Bethany is talking about, and a lot of the decisions that the characters make of trust versus suspicion of the other characters, is reflecting where I was at that moment of like trusting the people that I or feeling betrayed by the people that I put my trust in to like take care of me when the world is sick, or like election denial or COVID conspiracy or anything, right? And so that all kind of trickled. I didn't want to make a movie about like election denial because that's like very time stamped it. But yeah, that trickled its way into kind of Bethany's point of view, and the movie is like very mistrustful of the people who claim to be there to help her.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to say, I feel like Brandon and I are super lucky because we get this amazing opportunity to connect with filmmakers like yourself and watch films that, like, a lot of indie horror and horror that's not going like super like mainstream right now, but like we get to catch up on so much stuff, and there's so many deep and like deep-rooted meanings and just like or subtle meanings or sometimes more in your face meanings, but all these, we've seen so many stories with like great storylines and things to takeaways from them, and I just feel like we're super lucky. So again, to both of you, thank you for sharing this film with us and letting us process with this with you guys, because I love these conversations. They're great.
I'm pretty bowled over at how locked in we all are with like the same story, because it feels, when you're making it, it feels like you're standing in the grocery aisle saying the soup is going to be delicious one day. Like only you can see what this thing is going to shape up to be. And so now that people are like, the soup actually is delicious, and I taste the ingredients that you put in there, is like staggering to me.
Yeah, awesome. It's really awesome. And I think that is something that can be said for like the independent film community, and especially the horror community right now.
Totally.
Like, it's such an amazing space where so many creators can have a voice that maybe like the overall film industry or studio industry isn't quite embracing yet. Yeah. And I think that's something that's so magical about festivals like the Vortex, like Popcorn Frights, like all of the various independent and horror fests, and even some of the bigger fests, just to see all of these different perspectives, because I do really think like there is room for everyone. There's kind of this mentality in LA, or I'm sure it's wherever, but like, if you're making a movie, only this certain amount of people are allowed to make the movies. This certain type of person is allowed to be on camera. And I really don't think that's true. I think it's something that's for everyone, because everyone is watching these movies at the end of the day. And to see yourself on screen is like just incredible. Not like me as an actor, but like, represented. And it's cool to see all kinds of different people.
The community wants it right now too. Like, I feel like the horror community wants to see anything and everything, and they want to see different representations. They don't want to just see the same thing over and over. And selfishly, as much as I want success for everyone, I don't ever want indie filmmaking to go like too mainstream ever, because then it just gets watered down. And I like it, that has its place in my heart too, but like indie film also has plays a big role in our lives and like the things that we enjoy. So
especially indie horror, I'll double down, because I think every filmmaking innovation in basically ever has come from independent horror. From found footage to switch to digital to steady cams to everything. Like, I think horror is the tip of the spear, because those are the nerds. Those are the people who like have to make this movie.
Right.
And so I feel really honored to be one of those people that just have to make this movie.
Yeah.
And I want to say, like, 2024 was special because you've seen so many people with like the music background step into making films and making horror films, and I see that you had a music background, so it was just amazing. And then it's just like, wow, like, you're not just known for just one thing. Like, you can do anything else, so it's been really cool to have take that ride. So
yeah, it's so funny because nope, never mind. Not funny. I thought something had happened, but it didn't happen. We were at a film festival, the Soho Horror Fest in England, and a musician that I've like listened to since I was a kid was also there, I think supporting a movie, but he didn't make a movie. His name's Tim Kasher. of the band Cursive, and like it's
Okay.
you're right. It's like so many. I think that there is a really fluid border between music and performance and making films. Also shout out to another one of my favorite movies of the year, Kneecap, which is about a music group that also is in the movie and basically wrote the movie, and it's an incredible picture.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But Aviv, hold on, I gotta ask you one more question. So Aviv, like we talked about the soundtrack and we talked about the like music and everything. I need to know, like, where'd the inspiration come from making that Chapel Rowan Hot to Go little remix for Jingle? Can we hear it?
Yeah, yes, a couple things. I get to shout out more people, which is great. I want to shout out our composer Alexander Kalinowski, who is amazing and who is the like after Lianne the next person to read a script. It has such a great taste in movies, great story ideas, and starts like hearing things immediately. And she's one of our closest friends. And so can I put you on this? I don't know if you cut things out of the podcast, but can I put you on to something about the movie and specifically the score?
Sure.
If you're into music. There is a moment in the movie where you realize that the entire score is from Eli's perspective, that Eli is hearing the music of the movie that he thinks he's in.
Okay.
And so AK, our composer, like threw in a little thing that like blew up my whole mind, and we redid the score with that in mind, with like a month to go before we had to lock. But yeah, the to answer your actual question, the Chapel Roan thing, I sang Lazarus, let's see if she resurrects. And so that is A, very stupid, and B, shout out to our friend Tim, one of my best friends since high school, who we like play like dumb word. He lives in Boston, he lives in Arlington, with his amazing spouse Martha and their 2 kids. And we're on like a group chat that started during COVID, and we'll like do bits. Like the group chat is dedicated to bits. And so periodically we'll send each other voice notes with like random things in the Hot to Go song. And so I was primed to do this, and then I realized that our movie could do it, and made one, and did not realize that it would come. I thought it would be like one Instagram post, and did not realize that people would dig it up.
And also, we're both huge Chapel Roan fans.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I loved her. So happy for her success. Yes, more cool artists, please.
Chapel calls.
That's so cool.
Call us. Also, that was also thrown to us, Dave, too, because there was a film that she actually did the songs for.
Rachel Stavis had a short film called Posies that she had early on scored. It was like a 4 or 5 minute film. It's actually really beautiful, but she had scored it, and that's, I don't know where that's available, but that was cool. We were supposed to be able to
definitely want to look that up.
Yeah, from 2022,
I believe so. Yeah.
I gotta check this out. I gotta search for it now.
Yep.
I'm very, very much Chapel pilled. I love Chapel.
Yeah, there you go.
Why don't you guys tell our listeners if you have anything on deck and where they can find you on social media?
Oh man.
Okay. Well, on deck right now, we have a couple of features that are in like very, very, very early stages. So we're really, really excited about those, but we'll tell people more about them when they're more solid on our social media. My most used social media is probably Instagram, and I'm at Lianne O'Shea official.
Official. How do you spell Lianne? It's a definitely normal way.
Definitely all the same. Lianne.
And I'm at Rambo Calrissian on all socials. You can follow Lizzie Lazarus at Lizzie Lazarus on Instagram. I'm like very not good at social media, but you can reach out. You can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm at my first and last name, Aviv Rubinstien. Okay. And you can check out Lizzie Lazarus on Screambox. And if you want to own it, you can buy it on Apple TV or Amazon, also on the 14th for $12.99.
Yeah, and pretty shortly it'll be available on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it'll be available.
Exactly when yet.
We're working on our physical release, and then at some point it will be everywhere else. But Screambox is the place to get it now.
Also has very cool poster art. If that's the official poster art that I'm seeing on IMDb, is that?
It is. So we have a bunch of different
different poster art.
Yeah. So we could, maybe do a merch drop or something.
Yeah. The one that I saw almost reminds me of like some kind of like 90s like youth novel or something like that. I don't know how to describe it, but it has like this 90s.
You once again nailed it.
Okay, cool.
That is a very cool local artist in LA that we actually got connected with because we were seeing a Friends movie at the LA Cine Lounge or the Sunset Cine Lounge.
So such a small little theater.
Happened to have some cool posters in the lobby, and we said to the person running the box office, like, "Those are cool posters." And he goes, "Oh, my girlfriend made those." And we were like, "Can we have her number?"
Yeah.
Yep. And Aviv,
her name's Caitlin.
Can we have your girlfriend's number?
Can we have your girlfriend?
Yeah,
we liked your posters
from across the bar.
And Caitlin worked really hard on the poster and is amazing, and
very cool,
super cool. It's a reference to one novel specifically, and if someone emails me, I'll send them a copy of the movie. They can figure out what novel it is.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When I saw it, I feel like I know, but I couldn't put so I'm gonna be like,
I also same, but I don't know if I remember.
Okay.
I feel like I would have said this to Aviv when I saw it, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Guys, thank you so much. This was awesome. Loved having you on here.
Thank you so much for having us. It was so great meeting with you guys and talking with you.
And it's awesome, Lianne, meeting a fellow New Englander, transplant over there in LA. Aviv, we won't hold it against you that you're from Pennsylvania.
I lived in Boston for like 10 years.
Yeah, that's your saving grace. That's what I mean.
Perfect. Yeah. The Sox broke the curse on my birthday.
Pittsburgh area, right? Is that what I read?
Philly area.
Oh, Philly area. All right, not Pittsburgh.
Go Birds.
Nice. Awesome. So thank you both. What were you going to say?
No, but I just said go Birds, and Brandon went,
I'm a Colts fan.
A Colts fan?
I'm a Lakers fan.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where he comes from either. Don't worry about it.
Right. We're good.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah,
no problem.
Thank you so much.
Call us back anytime.
We'll
definitely
absolutely
chat about movies we love.
Hopefully we'll be out in Providence sometime soon.
Yeah.
Probably in the summertime.
Awesome. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you guys, and thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week. Have a great night. See you later.
You gotta have dreams to come true. You gotta have smiles meant for you. You gotta have grand occasion to announce your resignation. You gotta let true love depart and let sickness fill your broken heart. 'Cause that's the reason life's worth living at all. That's the reason life's worth living at all. You gotta have friends by your side. You gotta have secrets to confide. You gotta meet sexy infants who will let you kiss them different. You gotta sleep all teary-eyed be no more kiss goodnight. There'll be no more silly fights. There'll be no more walls to pin her or bankrupts after dinner. There'll only be a bed undressed and a best spot where her head should rest. 'Cause that's the reason you should